Derick, it's nice to have you here today. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me okay. Terrific. If I could just be let share my screen, I will start my presentation. That's great. Thank you very much.
Yes, now we can see it. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you everybody for getting me here on time and in the virtual room. So hello everybody. My name is Derick Mitchell. I'm the CEO of IPPOSI, and I won't say what that stands for because it's a very long phrase, but we are based in Ireland. And we are a patient-led organization, and we've been working in EUPATI since its foundation, really, way back in the early 2010s. And so we were asked to present this presentation about EUPATI, and it's great that we're following on from Magda's introduction to this whole world of where patients are increasingly educated and increasingly involved in healthcare, be it either through their own self-management, but increasingly in decisions that are often taken on their behalf, but without their input. So, and that applies all across the health systems in Europe and internationally. And it applies particularly in the areas of research and innovation. And over the last 10 years, we've seen a sea change in the way in which patient input and patient influence can be brought to a process that maybe traditionally was not structured according to meaningful involvement. Very often the engagement was quite tokenistic. However, since the advent of the likes of EUPATI and Paradigm and PFMD and an awful lot of patient groups feeding into the process has improved from a quality perspective. We've seen the impacts of that patient involvement across costs, across savings, across timeframes. So the impact is very real, and it's important that we now sustain that impact. So EUPATI is one of those key pillars of that sustainability, and I'll talk a little bit about that in my presentation. So EUPATI started off life as an IMI project in 2012. It was a 5-year project. And it's a great example of how a public-private partnership can sustain itself beyond that initial commission and FPF funding. So there was a 3-year bridging period where the European Patients Forum, the EPF, took EUPATI under its wing and molded a business plan that ultimately has led to the establishment of the EUPATI Foundation in the Netherlands in 2020. And it's an independent, non-profit foundation, and I'm one of the board members representing patient groups. So EUPATI has many partners who have helped establish it and are helping to sustain it. And they come from patients, they come from academia, they come from industry, but they also come from the regulators and HTA agencies who recognize that they need patients with a bit more expertise, or what I would call just enough education to perform within the processes and opportunities that are there for them. So we've had huge support over the years from the likes of the European Medicines Agency in terms of their willingness to engage with us on our content and ensuring that that is appropriate and independent. And but also it has to be said from many of our industry partners who have been there since the beginning and who have really dedicated time and effort, blood, sweat and tears to establishing and sustaining EUPATI. And this slide just, I guess, encapsulates, somebody was talking earlier about an area that's very complex, but actually, as Magda has eloquently said, it's actually quite simple. if you break it down according to, well, for me personally, it's a values framework. So if we all share the same values, be you working in a pharmaceutical company or a patient group or an academic institution, then EUPATI and Paradigm and PFMD are places where those values, those shared values, can come together. So in this slide, this just gives you a flavor of the type of opportunities that now exist in the medicines life cycle, or the R&D process, whereby patients can actually influence the process in terms of improving it from a quality perspective, from a time perspective, improving it from a patient centricity perspective. But there are certain types of expertise that would allow patients to be more impactful in those roles that are there for them. And that's where the beauty of something like EUPATI comes in. So EUPATI's mission is to provide this knowledge, this inclusive education that empowers patients and patient representatives with the right combination of knowledge plus skills plus competencies to effectively engage and partner with all other stakeholders in the medicines R&D process. And I'd actually venture to say that that mission has actually evolved over time to go beyond the medicines R&D process. As that process has evolved, as Magda has indicated, nothing ever stays the same. So I'm going to talk to you today about EUPATI's main activities, and there are multiple ones, but I'm just going to highlight 6 main ones. And the purpose of EUPATI, as the mission states, it is to educate patients and patient representatives. And our flagship is our patient education program. But we also provide other types of training for other stakeholders around patient engagement, how things like how to best approach your engagement process. And we have a series of stakeholder trainings that are on offer in that regard. We also have an increasing number of national platforms, and in Ireland, IPPOSI, my organization, houses. We are the Irish EUPATI national platform, and these are spreading the EUPATI values within country borders, and they are translating content, they are engaging stakeholders, they are training other stakeholders. So this is where I think the real beauty of EUPATI lies, in that we have an ability to create content that is applicable at the international level, but we also can harness the inherent innovation that exists within patient communities and other stakeholders at the national level. So it's that combination that makes EUPATI probably quite unique. And then I'm just going to give a little flavor about the EUPATI, what's called now the EUPATI Open Classroom, and this is our flagship patient expert training program. And it's for anyone who's interested, or anybody on the call who knows of anybody who might be interested in this. The call for expressions of interest in the next program is currently open, and you can find that on the EUPATI website. So this is quite a large undertaking. It requires quite a commitment. It's between 12 and 14 months of blended learning. So it's predominantly e-learning, but there is a face-to-face component to it. And we try to make it as easy as possible for people to register for it. There is a continuous enrollment, and we have over 200 what we call our EUPATI fellows, our graduates. And these are the individuals and representatives who are going out, getting involved, feeding back to EUPATI about the experience of getting involved, and also feeding it back to other potential patient experts in their areas. So that flexibility is very much a value of EUPATI, and flexibility requires that there isn't just one way of delivering the education and training. So people can choose from different courses, and they can go through assessments and receive a certificate for completing those courses. They can choose individual modules, and there's 6 modules within which there's a number of courses. And that gives you a little bit more of a flavor of a particular area. But if you want the title of EUPATI Fellow, you have to complete all the courses on the Open Classroom. And the title of EUPATI Fellow is very much now seen and recognized within the patient community as a label, as a quality label within the landscape, and it's highly sought after by stakeholders ranging from state agencies to companies to large-scale initiatives like international research networks. So that title bestows on people great confidence that not only have they the knowledge obtained by completing the courses, but they're part of a community of EUPATI fellows at both the international level and the national level. And it's that community that helps sustain the interest, the time, the commitment that's required after you receive the title of EUPATI Fellow. And we've seen a great impact of that confidence that comes or is enhanced by EUPATI training. And if you look at the surveys that we've conducted with our fellows, very much we see increases in activity in partnering in projects with R&D partners. So that the language and the terminology is actually far more familiar to our graduates, and indeed their ability to communicate that to other audiences is hugely increased. So these are great impacts and great benefits that are a result of the knowledge. But even more so, we survey our EUPATI fellows before they did the training and after they did the training in terms of their willingness to get involved. And I've just listed 4 types of activities that maybe people may have been doing before the training, but after the training, we've seen these shifts, particularly in areas like advising pharmaceutical companies or indeed regulatory agencies. So again, this implies a much greater confidence that comes with just enough education to perform. So for anybody who wishes to become a EUPATI patient expert, you can register on the EUPATI Open Classroom site. You can complete the first 4 learning modules. You can attend the first live stream. You need to complete the remaining 2 modules and attend the second live stream event. So it's only when you've completed all of that do you receive the EUPATI Fellow. So it's not an easy undertaking, but as you can see, the benefits are there to be realized. So the other activities that I mentioned earlier range from training, but also guidance. And this is almost like a precursor of the IMI Paradigm project, where EUPATI was putting together through its multi-stakeholder consortium guidance documents for how patient organizations and other stakeholders can interact in a safe, in a transparent, and in an ethical way. So the guidance that's available through EUPATI has been the influencer in my mind of an awful lot that has happened subsequent to it in terms of projects and others, and we have the evidence to show that these are very well accessed in terms of people looking for advice, and indeed the EUPATI team is a great source of advice in that regard. Our stakeholder training is very much focused on those other stakeholders, be you from academia, industry, or indeed state agencies. And this is where you will learn about the principles and the values of patient engagement. And that roadmap that I showed earlier, we break that down into its components in terms of, well, how you might go about doing some of these activities of involving. So the content of these training is co-designed and it's co-delivered by patients. And these are smaller workshops that are typically virtual, and we've trained over 500 individuals to date using these trainings. And more recently, because we have now this cohort of 200 fellows and we have this multi-stakeholder platform, what we're increasingly doing is we're matchmaking between the patients and the opportunities that are there for them. So we've created EUPATI Connect, which is a way of bringing together people who are interested in certain types of activities or interested in recruiting patients for some types of activities. And those range from things like protocol review or focus groups, speaking opportunities, patient advisory boards, ethical committees, regulatory process, you name it. These types of opportunities are being created, and we have the cohorts and the pool of expert patients that you can access through EUPATI. The toolbox is something that we've been designing for a number of years, and really it's come from the content that we have created for the expert patient training group, and it's what I would define as much a user-friendly form of the content in that it is translated into 13 languages. We've seen huge access to this resource because we actually think it's quite unique worldwide. Some of the countries that access this content come from all over the world, and there are a number of types of content that is freely available. It's by open license, and I would encourage anybody to go on there to find whatever it is you're looking for. I'm sure you'll find some of it in the toolbox. And just a word on the national platforms, which is very dear to my own heart. And we have now established 24 platforms both in Europe and Japan. And only last month, or indeed this month, our latest national platform was established in the Czech Republic, in Czechia. So these national platforms are living and breathing the EUPATI values and principles in the reality that they're living with, or they're living in their individual countries. And an awful lot of it revolves around contextualizing or translating the EUPATI content into content that is relevant at the national level. And indeed, as Magda has already said, EUPATI is heavily connected with and works to support and to partner with a number of the other worldwide patient engagement initiatives, the likes of PFMD, the FPA think tank, which I believe is happening today and tomorrow, and EUPATI is a co-organizer of the Patient Engagement Open Forum. So for anybody who was curious about just how this all works, so on the right-hand side, you have the governance of EUPATI, where the Board of Trustees delegates responsibility to a EUPATI board, and our executive director, Maria Duterte, looks after and is our chief of the secretariat. And we have a number of committees underneath that work between the board and the secretariat that work very well together. Our sustaining partners assembly is where the magic happens, really. So that's where all of our partners, all of our national platforms come together and appoint their representatives. We have what we call colloquially as our EUPATI friends. So we like to keep anybody who has contributed to EUPATI in the family, in the community, and we have an area for them to collaborate and to keep involved. So that's the governance of it as a public-private partnership. Our sustainability in terms of our funding comes from a number of areas, both public and private. We have our partner contributions. We charge a fee for the types of stakeholder trainings. We get involved with other European projects, be they IMI or Horizon 2020, and we're able to leverage public funding from that. We have a fundraising platform for anybody who believes in patient education, as many of us do. And we have the matchmaking platform, the EUPATI Connect. There's a small charge associated with making those connections because there is a real value for that. So it's very much a balanced public-private funding base. And just to give you a flavor of just some of the numbers, I've kind of indicated a lot of these already, but there are currently 38 partners in our. It's like a consortium in many ways, but these are the sustaining partners. The toolbox users for the 13 languages has gone over. I believe it's closer now to 6 million. So that needs to be updated. We have trained over 500 professionals. We have over 500 open classroom learners for a platform that was only launched in the last 18 months. And indeed, our big one is the over 200 trained patient experts. So that's it. You can get in touch with EUPATI in many ways, and you can hear about our activities. And I would certainly encourage you to follow any of our social media. But like Magda has said, this is a community, and it's very much a community that once you join it, you actually never want to leave it. So it's one of those special activities, and EUPATI is special, and we long may it continue. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Derick. I do confirm that EUPATI is special. And as an EUPATI fellow, I encourage you all to look at the classroom option and for the training. It's not easy, as Derick said, but it's really, really interesting and useful overall. EUPATI started as with the aim of educating patients, and you've shared now that there are different stakeholders also who are interested in training. Could you share more about the profile? Each who is involved in healthcare process could be trained via EUPATI or something else?
Sure. There's different types of training available. So we start with what we call our fundamentals training. So that is very much for somebody who is just coming new to this area and wants to familiarize themselves with the ecosystem or the environment of it. So it's kind of starting with the basics. And we then provide what we call essentials training for anybody who has either completed the fundamentals and wants to know a little bit more or wants to get more in depth in an area that maybe is more focused on where they are themselves or where their organization is. So those are very complementary and they're very popular. They're relatively small. You have maybe 20 or 25 people. But what we find within those trainings is that the other participants, the other students in the course, that participants actually learn so much more from actually hearing how others might be struggling a bit in certain aspects or there's certain challenges or obstacles that they're facing. And they can actually overcome those through peer learning and learning between each other. So it's very much a combined effort rather than maybe a one-way didactic kind of traditional way of training. So those are available to any stakeholder. So they're designed not to be focused on one particular industry or academic area, or it's all completely non-condition specific. And we've seen from the people who attend that there is that diversity. So as has been said, the fundamentals and the essentials are pretty much applicable no matter where you're coming from. And EUPATI also organizes more specific, again, types of training where if you are an individual, maybe academic institute or a company that wants to invite EUPATI to deliver in person or virtually specific training to your area, we can do that as well. And we offer that as part of our suite of training offerings.
So it sounds like a tailor-made educational program for specific stakeholders, right?
Yes, but keeping that flexibility, I think, is key to not being too one size fits all.
Yes, this is not working an effective strategy actually. And you've shared about EUPATI national platforms or communities. So what's the difference and what's their aim? Are they acting locally for the community there, for the population in a separate country, or on their local language, or on their local problems, or it's something else?
Well, we have somebody from speaking later from the EUPATI national platforms, and I'm not going to duplicate
Okay.
what she's going to say, but suffice to say that EUPATI national platforms play a key role in EUPATI, both from a governance, they have a voice at the very top in EUPATI, and that's extremely important. They contribute at the central level, but obviously their focus is at the national level. So the kind of challenges that are faced with national platforms can be variable, but what we've also find is that there are common challenges and they can learn from each other. So the PADI national platforms have their own network, and it's important that they maintain a degree of independence to ensure that whatever challenges they're facing, that they can actually communicate that to other platforms, to EUPATI Central, and we can work together to try and overcome those challenges.
Great. And are there any specific requirements to set up such an EUPATI platform nationally?
There's guidance from EUPATI, and we have in EUPATI we have a national platform coordinator, and that was previously housed in IPPOSI in my organization for many years, and now it's in the secretariat in the foundation. And over the years that support centrally, it's probably from my own perspective, it's probably not as large as we would hope it would be. In terms of support, either financial or otherwise. But it's safe to say that that is ultimately part of why EUPATI has sustained itself, because the often the individual patient advocates, or indeed the people who establish national platforms, be they from academia or indeed industry, that the structure that's available can be molded, it can be changed according to the national context. So it's why the Irish national platform is within IPPOSI as an organization. So there's no, again, one size fits all for all countries. National platforms can change according to the circumstances they find themselves in.
Thank you. Thank you for this answer. And we also have a question from one of our participants in the audience. Given the medical writers have limited level of influence, how can medical writers advocate for patients, and what can they learn from EUPATI? A lot is the short answer.
Well, I think if the question is how can I advocate for greater patient engagement in whatever role I'm playing, be it medical writer or I think the question somewhat implies that medical writers don't have agency or don't have power. But I think that for anybody who is working in healthcare, be it in the private sector or the public sector, we're actually all aiming for the same thing, and that's better outcomes for patients. So in terms of how you might convince those decision makers in your own in your own area to change, sometimes it's about culture and the culture in which your job or your role is surrounded by, and that's surrounded often by individual people. And the only way you can change culture is by going individually. So people have to change and recognize that maybe the way in which they are working needs to change. So that kind of light bulb moment you'll never get it from kind of, well, here's EUPATI and here's all the things that EUPATI is doing. It won't come from that. It'll come from someone like a medical writer kind of finding a way of challenging that person who maybe they answer to or they report to, and challenging them in a way that gets them to recognize that despite maybe the area that they're working in not being maybe patient facing or not being readily realizing benefits for patients, that even in your own kind of relatively small area, if you change one person's opinion about how they can change their work plan or their workflow or how they work, well, that's an achievement in my mind in terms of moving things towards a more patient-centered process. So it's those little changes that can often make the bigger difference further down the line, because EUPATI is not going away. So we're going to have more patient advocates out there that are changing things from the I guess the patient facing side of things. But we also need those people back at the ranch who we never hear from, we never see before, to be true believers in that whatever way they're able to be influential in their own area, that they stick with it, that they stay the path with us. That's my piece.
Thank you. It was really great answer. Yeah, make the difference. Be the change you want to see in the world by yourself. Thank you once again for the amazing presentation. Congratulations once again for what EUPATI is doing, because it's really different and it's really important and valuable. And I would invite everyone who is interested to look at the EUPATI page and find their way to be useful for and valuable for patient society. Nevertheless, medical writer, doctor, a pharma company representative, patient or patient organization, there are places for everyone there. And I've dropped the link to the site in the chat, so please look at it. Thank you, Derick, once again.